When it feels like your team committed highway robbery during the draft, few things feel better. It's a good feeling, and today we're going to talk about the steals from the 2024 NFL Draft. Starting with Troy Franklin, what a get for the Denver Broncos. He ends up slipping out of day 2 altogether, which was very surprising. He was a bit of a divisive prospect. Either you really liked him or you really didn't. I was kind of on the middle ground. I had him at 62 on my big board, and I get that there were aspects of his game that were down from 2022 to 2023, like the ball skills. Like, I had someone try to dispute that in my comment section. It was like, no, he was significantly worse in ball skills compared to 2022. Like, if we're gonna go like bring that up real quick, let's just do it. 10% drop rate this past season, it was 3.2 in 2022, 36.8 percent on the contested catch. It was 63.6 in 2022. Actually, he was worse in terms of ball skills. Don't at me. The numbers don't lie. But you're getting a guy, sure, he's put on a little bit more weight, but he's young. He's shown that he was gaining weight year to year. I'm not worried about that. People are worried about the gauntlet drill. Okay, little worrisome. But at the end of the day, you're getting a guy with good height. He's going to put on more size, more nuance. Now, route runner at least understands how to run routes, and he's got really quick feet, and you're going to open up the route tree at the second level, or at the next level being the NFL. I was puzzled. And the Broncos end up trading up in a move that I think is well worthwhile. I think they did give away, they swapped fourths on top of giving away another fourth, and then there was like a late day 3 pick swap. Well worth it. You're getting Beaux Limmer, who you've just given the keys to, his top weapon the last 2 years. That was a good on the Broncos. Good on the Broncos. But next on this list is TJ Tampa. He ends up going at 130. I had him at 45 on my big board. Granted, I will admit, I think I was higher on him than most of the general draft consensus. I think Connor Rogers kind of lined up with where I thought he should be. But he did feel a little scheme specific. You're going to want him for a more zone heavy scheme, which the Ravens have become. And you like the size, you like the length, and as long as you're keeping him in a zone heavy scheme, I feel like in man, he was a bit more clunkier, but he shows real quick feet in more of a zone heavy scheme. So I get he was like scheme dependent a little bit, but for him to fall to 130, I thought was exceptional value there. Good on the Baltimore Ravens. Well, I'm going to stay with the defensive backs here as Jaden Hicks ends up going at pick 133 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that's a really fabulous pick. He was actually my top safety in the draft, and I had him at 53 on my big board, and I get why. Maybe he fell because the safety class wasn't all that in bag of chips. It wasn't bad. It was just super mid. And there was probably like 7 or 8 guys where everyone had them ranked in all kinds of ways. And that just happened to be the class. So he ends up falling, I think maybe because he can be a little bit more boom bust in coverage. That was more so something I think you saw in 2022. And I thought he did a good job cleaning it up. And he just didn't have like the splash plays in the second half of the season, opposed to how he started the year. But he brings really good size at 6'2", 212. This ends up being a really, really good pickup by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I mean, straight up, I think the Chiefs did a wonderful job with their draft. But let's talk about the most important position on an NFL roster, in an NFL franchise, being quarterback, as the New Orleans Saints somehow come away with Spencer Rattler at pick 150. He was 89 on my big board. I thought he was probably after your top 6 quarterbacks, I think he was probably the next guy. I think you could make an argument, maybe some other, like maybe a Michael Pratt or a Jordan Travis, Joe Milton should have been there, but I think Rattler, he has an NFL arm, not ideal NFL size, but and you would like to see him work inside a structure. He wasn't really afforded that this past year because South Carolina's offensive line was just straight booty cheeks. And I don't think he fell because of the character concerns, because I feel like we're far enough removed from that ever since he transferred to South Carolina in 2022. And that the character hasn't been an issue. Shane Beamer is actually a really good head coach and takes discipline when it comes to his players, and he expects maturity. So I wasn't too worried about that, and I heard really positive reviews about him as a person, this whole draft process, and how he's come a long way. I'm thinking it's just probably the lack of size on top of, well, not working inside a structure a ton. But the Saints end up, like, you take that shot at 150, that's phenomenal value for Spencer Rattler. However, I want to go back to the corner position because Caelen Carson was wonderful value for the Cowboys at pick 175. I had him as a top 100 prospect. And why did he fall here? Well, for one, really good corner class. Like, corner class from rounds 3 to 6, I thought were like finger licking good. And why does he fall? Maybe part of it is he had to pull out of the Senior Bowl because of an injury. Didn't test like phenomenally, but his testing wasn't bad. Ran a 4.53. That's fine. 6 on the bench. He did get bodied by bigger receivers last season, a la Keon Coleman. And then the broad was nothing special. It was actually the lower percentile, so I was a little shocked by that. But you look at his film, and he's a dog. He's a competitor. Yeah, you kind of wish the ball skills were better. You kind of wish that he would turn his head around and try to make a play on the ball downfield. He really just tries to stick with him, but I thought he was good enough to go at least like early in the 4th, and they end up snagging him at 175. Just phenomenal value there for the Cowboys. But let's stick with the NFC East because the Eagles ended up taking Johnny Newton at pick 185. How? Like, Newton, I get it if you're like, oh, is he a big slot? Is he an X wide receiver, or are we gonna transition him to tight end? Draft him and figure that out in camp. The guy's 6'6", 231, ends up running a what do we got here? A 4.5, 240. The explosive numbers are pretty darn good. The short shuttle wasn't bad. Like, the length is insane. 35.5-inch arms. Like, bring that guy into camp and just figure it out. But no, he ends up falling right into the Eagles' hands, who are like, okay, 185. Let's just take a shot on him. Hell yeah, this is a guy I want to take a shot on. So I like the value. I like the pick. Good job by the Philadelphia Eagles. But by far what I think was one of the greatest steals in this class was Christian Mahogany out of Boston College. He goes to Detroit with pick 210. And I'm not going to have a lot of guys that were like, I'm not going to have like 2nd round steals on here, right? Or else I'd be talking about Cooper Beebe, right? Instead of Cooper DeJean instead of Johnny Wilson. I like to go with these like guys that were maybe late 3rd, 4th, like day 3. Who are those steals? And Christian Mahogany being available that late, dude was 69 on my big board. First off, nice. How did he fall? Did teams maybe feel like he was a bit scheme specific? Like, he wasn't maybe a natural feel for maybe like more outside zone blocking schemes, like, because the wide zone blocking schemes are kind of 2/3 of the NFL at this point. I don't know. I was kind of puzzled by that because like the player's really good. Like, the dude was my interior 6. He was him and. Yeah, I would say him and Cooper Beebe were my top 2 guards in this class. Okay, maybe guard 2 and 3. It kind of depends what you feel about Mason McCormick. Is he guard? Is he center? How do you feel about Graham Barton? Is he guard? Is he center? I did like Christian Haynes though, but still, like, he's a top 5 guard in this class, Christian Mahogany. It just blew my mind. The Lions were like, hell, let's get exceptional value. And now, shoot, apparently Giovanni Manu, they're gonna try to make him a guard at 6'7", 352. Just develop him as a tackle, guys. But yeah, good job by the Lions. This was a great steal. Now let's jump to the defense real quick as I talk about Cedric Johnson out of Ole Miss. Ends up going at pick 214, I believe, to the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, he does. And I get it. The dude's a project, but he's got tools. Tested out well. Like, let's run through that real quick. Coming in at 6'3", 260, ran a 4.63, 33.5-inch arm. So he hits that threshold. Typically, you want 33 inches or higher when it comes to arm length. He tested explosively. Like, I get it. He didn't have the breakout year that you anticipated, but that's why you look at him as a project. How's he going so late? Like, you got a guy like Jalen Hunt at a Houston Christian, faced lower level competition, going higher than him. And I'd argue that the tools are similar, like similar enough, especially athletically, to where I would bet on Cedric Johnson, who was facing the SEC the last few years. So I thought that was a good pickup there by the Bengals. Let's jump to the offensive line with Beaux Limmer, baby. I was very high on Beaux Limmer. I was high on him entering the summer. I kind of reeled back during the season, then kind of fell back in love to some degree, not to the levels it was entering the season, but still thought he was like a 3rd-round pick. And he ends up falling to pick 217. I had him at 84 on my big board. Like, straight up, the Rams got some good value. Like, I like the KT Leviston pick, and then they end up getting Beaux Limmer. Like, good on the stinking Rams. Truly, because, like, not saying he's like a fail-safe if Steve Avila doesn't work out at center. That's going to be their center. But now you're developing a guy who can be a really good backup. Like, keep in mind, this was a team that had that dealt with some injuries, mainly a tackle, but during the season. So you like to have good depth, and you're going to be developing very good depth with a guy like Beaux Limmer. But by far the biggest steal in this class may have been Brenden Rice. Ends up going to the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh, he was like, yeah, you know what? This fall's kind of nuts. Let's take a shot on him. I had him at 119 on my big board, and I thought I wasn't that high on him. I thought I may have been like an outlier, because it seemed like a lot of people had him as a top 100, and I was like, I see him as like a 4th, 5th round pick, like possession receiver. I just didn't love him like that compared to the general draft consensus. But being available at pick 225, like, whose dog did he shoot? How did he end up here? And, like, straight up Chargers, you are getting like phenomenal value with an X, not like a prototypical maybe X type of wide receiver, coming in at 6'2", 208, good possession receiver, but did show some good explosiveness in the breaks in his routes. Tested, I think, relatively solid as well. Let me just go confirm. Yeah, 33-inch arms, ran a 4.5. That's solid at X size. 36.5 in the vert, 119 in the broad, and I mean, straight up, actually, his agility drills are better than I remember. Again, didn't love him. Was wide receiver like 19 for me, but still thought he was probably should have went a heck of a lot higher than this. And I'm not even going to mention, like, the Chargers also got really good value with Cornelius Johnson, who it's like, oh, Jim Harbaugh just drafted his Michigan guys, but I kind of saw him as a mid-day 3 guy, and he ends up going at the back end of day 3. So, dude, Jim Harbaugh getting some exceptional value at receiver there. But let's talk about quarterback, because quarterback legitimately had a big fall, and it wasn't just Spencer Rattler. Like, Michael Pratt goes at the back end of the 7th round at pick 245? I had him at 142 on my big board. He was quarterback 8 for me. Like, I get it. He's not like he's not the toolsy guy, but he seems like he could be a potentially solid backup in the NFL. Like, I liked him better than guys like Bailey Zappi coming out, who ends up being a 4th rounder. And I mean, straight up, I liked him better than Sean Clifford. Hell yeah, this was a better pick than Sean Clifford. So, like, good on the Packers. May have just upgraded at the backup quarterback position. So you gotta love that. But whose cereal did Pratt piss in for him to fall? Like, I don't think you can make a good argument that, like, you can make an argument like Joe Milton, because he's just tools, and tools, by the way. But like Jordan Travis, I didn't really see it with. Like Pratt just kind of felt like, oh yeah, this could be a good backup level quarterback. Like, we're talking Aiden O'Connell ends up going higher than Michael Pratt. And if anything, he should have went in that Aiden O'Connell range. So it did shock me a little bit. But to wrap this sucker in a nice bow, I want to talk about Myles Harden. Ends up going at pick 227 to the Cleveland Browns.
And I'm going to be honest, I think that probably comes down to injury, why he ends up falling. He did have, he had back-to-back lower leg injuries or lower body injuries that ended his season in 2021 and 2022. I don't think he falls because of level of competition, because I thought he did a good job at the Shrine. I don't think he falls because maybe, oh, he's just a slot guy, because he's got decent size at 5'11", 195. So he could probably work inside and out. Ultimately, I think, I'm not saying this is like a replacement for anybody for the Browns. I mean, guys, it's a 7th round pick. But I think you get really good depth in a guy that can make the roster and maybe be something sometime in your future. So good job by the Browns here. I had him a lot closer to a top 50 prospect than going to the back end of the 7th round. But let me know who were some of your favorite steals from this draft class. I just did reaches yesterday, so if you haven't checked out that video, you can check it out down below. But as always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.